job interview is one of the most anxiety-provoking situations most people can find themselves in, even when they go to plan. But what happens when you have your worst interview ever? Our guests share their worst interviews ever in the hope that you will take something from their mistakes to have a more successful interview outcome. Some of the stories are horrific and some are just downright embarrassing. Let's join our host, Kevin O'Reilly, the interview skills coach with over 25 years' experience in the fields of coaching and recruitment. Let's welcome our guests to the show.
Today we have on the show Joe Donnelly, the founder and CEO of a charity called TAMHI, which stands for Tackling Awareness of Mental Health Issues. He has won the Sports Gives Back Social Impact Award for his work with mental health and received this award in 2024 in London. Joe, you're very, very welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hi, Kevin. Thanks very much for the kind invite on the show. As you says, I'm the CEO of a mental health charity, TAMHI, named after my friend who sadly died by suicide in 2009. But taking sort of adversity and negativity and turning it into positivity and hope, that's what I've built this organization on. Like I says, I've been through the sort of mill of interviews, either being interviewed or interviewing people. So I'm really excited about the opportunity. Thank you very much.
No, I really appreciate it. Just whenever I was doing a bit of research on yourself and looking into where you've came from and what you're doing and the people we sort of know together, I was very excited to get you on this show because I think you'll give a really good perspective on interviews in general. Because most people think that an interview is going for a job, but you and I both know as entrepreneurs that an interview is when you're going to pitch for business or when you're going to speak in a meeting or when you're going to any meeting. That is an interview. They are interviewing to see if they can work with you. So this is really interesting because I know you would have to do a lot of this being a charity yourself and going out and asking for those type of funds.
Yeah, well, we would, like it says, we would be interviewing on a regular basis by funders, but they want to know, if we give you funds, what will you do with it? How will you spend it? Have you got the capacity to do so? They always ask the question, have you mitigated against things that potentially go wrong? And I think sort of one of my biggest sort of strengths is I'm very good at planning a project, but I'm very real in terms of I put all mitigations in this is aspirational, this is what we would like to do, this is what may go wrong, this is what we will do if something goes wrong. And that's appreciated and valued because you're being honest and you're being transparent. And there are two things, especially working in the community volunteer sector, that are really valued by those decision makers who are committing to give you public funds, charitable funds. That if you're honest and transparent and say, we're 100% committed to make it going, we're passionate about it, but we know that things can go wrong, and this is what we're going to do to prevent it, and this is what we're going to do if something goes wrong, and we're going to be open, we're going to be honest, we're going to be transparent. And I think that the duration of my sort of, since I started as an AA in the Belfast Metropolitan College, I worked through to basically an EO in Sport and I, that I started as a CEO of TAMHI. I've always been open, honest, and transparent, and those are things that have got me far in life. So I'm delighted to be able to share that with people.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. I do hear just a little bit of chatter in the background there. Do they want to come on as well and give us a shout? Are you sure?
All right, I'll give them the thumbs up. It's just we've actually got good technology. I mean, that's how far we've come. We've got good technology where you can hear people in the background.
Oh, that's cool, isn't it? That's cool. No problem. Listen, but before we really get into the meat of this, okay, I'd love for you to share something with our listeners, maybe a hobby or a talent, maybe one of those hidden things that nobody really knows about you.
Well, look, my biggest hobby at the moment, which I'm very, very bad at, is golf. But I love it. I love the fact that I'm outside in the open air. I love the fact I'm side by side with friends. I love the fact that I'm appreciating nature. I'm playing sport. I'm being active. And another thing that sort of always had in my life is purpose. Sport. When I used to play football, I did damage my finger. Couldn't do nets anymore. I then went into golf because I feel while we have the employment side of things, work-life balance is really key. And the biggest thing I'm proud of is my family. The default one in case my wife listens to this and I get in trouble. But in terms of my own personal hobby, I love golf. I love going out with my golf society. I love having something to look forward to every month, and it makes a massive difference. And that's, I think, any recommendation to anybody that's working or wanting to work, always have something to look forward to. And again, that motivates me, makes me more animated, makes me more passionate, makes me more positive, and then that comes across when I'm presenting myself. If I didn't have that thing to look forward to, I'd be sad faced and miserable.
Mm.
Thankfully not.
And I suppose it's there to sort of break up the monotony of that work. And you said work-life balance, which is really nice because uh, it's funny. I had a conversation with a behavioral analyst this morning, and he had said something very similar. He's just recently taken up green bowls because he needs to not think about work and not think about family. And I don't want that to come across like he's negating his family or work. He is just needing that time for himself and that
Yep.
social aspect that's just for him.
Yep. I think everyone needs that. Because at the end of the day, you've only got so much time in the day. And I think someone always said to me, it's 6 hours, or was it 8 hours work, 8 hours play, 8 hours sleep.
Mm-hmm.
If you can balance your life like that, you've got a good life. But it's hard trying to basically work full time, family, etc. But it is really, really good to have that one thing a month, one thing every couple of weeks to look forward to, because it does influence how you conduct yourself. It does influence your attitude. It does influence your application. And for me, that is, well, it's not a skill, it's a hobby, but it's something that it's something I really love.
Yeah. I have one of those things myself. It's not a sporting event. I do go to the gym, but the one thing that I have for myself is an organization called Toastmasters International. Have you ever heard of those?
No, no.
It's a biggest not-for-profit public speaking organization in the world. So
Toastmaster, I think I know
Toastmasters
that.
International, yeah. So they help people find their voice. So 385,000 members across the whole world. Over 110 clubs on the island of Ireland. And currently, I'm their division director for all of the north of Ireland and as far down as Westport. And that is something that is for me. That is something that I enjoy doing. It's not even like I'm getting anything from it because it's not for profit. What I get from it is the feeling of helping other people who were potentially in the same situation that I was 4 or 5 years ago, lacking that confidence, not having that voice that I wanted to be able to
Oh,
express myself.
I actually want to join Toastmasters. You have a very good sales pitch for out there. Like, sign
Well,
me up.
well, let's talk about this after, eh?
Well. It does actually sound amazing.
It is. It is. It's a wonderful place that has people of like-minded wanting you to do very well. That's the best way I can describe it. It's a room full of people that when you get up and you try, you get an applause. When you get up and something doesn't go to plan, you get a round of applause. When you get up, you get a round of applause. It is all about helping instill that confidence into you as a person. And then how do you use that going forward? It
I'm just
is
making a wee list of motivation and encouragement.
it's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. But you can look at it. It's called Toastmasters International.
It's on my list. I'm making notes as well.
Good man. Okay. Well, listen, we're going to get stuck into the meat of this, okay?
Yep.
And there's one thing that I always like to start with, and it's more so along the lines of your highlight of your career. Now, it doesn't have to be something that, now that you're the CEO and the founder of this organization, it could be something prior to that. But if it's something to do with the organization, that'd be wonderful.
Well, look, there's probably two in the context of my career. The first one was, ironically, after an interview. Whenever I applied for funding for full-time staff for TAMHI, the organisation from England came over to interview me and my board member, and their feedback was that they would only give, based on the interview, they would only give the funding subject to me taking the post. They didn't want me to recruit externally for it. They wanted only me, because they said you're the only person that has the passion and the commitment and the drive to make this happen. And their condition was, if you take the post, you can basically lead the organisation forward, but they're not going to give it to um, me to basically employ someone. And that was after an interview, and I was very proud of that, and ended up taking a career break from the previous job, um, prior to TAMHI, and I've been here. Was it since 2014? So I've been here near 10 years. 10 years I've
Mm,
been here now, in April, and that was a proud moment. And then come full circle to 2024. It's 10 years later, ironically. We're in London being presented with the Social Impact Sport for Good Award, by Sport for Good, by Frank Lampard and Christine Lampard, which was surreal. And I
mm-hmm.
loved the fact that first thing I done was I bought Frank Lampard a drink, just to say I bought Frank Lampard a drink, famous multi-millionaire Premier League footballer. And then he bought us drink the rest of the night. So it was, we got to get in there first, but it was really sort of like, 10 years later to go start an organisation and now being established, being recognised at the UK wide level, and for anything, extremely proud of what TAMHI's achieved and where we've came from all those years way back in 2011 as a project, 2014 full time as a registered charity, and in 10 years we're now an award winning organisation. So they are things to be proud of. And at every stage, you get sort of people talk till you communicate, till you ask you questions to basically try and capture the essence of what we do, how we do it, and the impact we have. And I think it's fair to say that from an interview perspective, we're very good at telling our story.
Yeah, and you touched on your passion, and that is really shining through even in this interview itself. Your passion for what you do, and for the reason that you do it, and I'm not sure if you've ever heard of a guy called Simon Sinek. He has a
Yes.
wonderful book out called Find Your Why, and unfortunately for you, your why was a traumatic event that has spurred you on to this. But you've done something really good with that event. You have used that event to save so many others who potentially
Yep.
were going through the same thing.
If Simon Sinek had a quote which we stand by, which is we don't want people to invest in us financially, we want people to invest in us emotionally. Because if
Mm.
they invest in financially, they want sort of a return. If they invest emotionally, they want to help and support.
Yeah.
And a lot of our sort of investment and when we're in front of people, when we talk and the passion shines through, people want to invest, people want to buy into what we're about because they can see firsthand, like, this is what this organization's about. I once had the biggest compliment ever from a German woman when I'd done a presentation for techies in residence years ago. It was like a Dragon's Den type thing, but everybody
Mhm.
was getting up and getting criticized and crying. And then I was straight after lunch, and I get up to present was tell me to gather up, which ironically has now been made and has now been rolled out, but it was too soon in the timeline. But she stopped the whole thing and says, "Look, guys, I do not know what he said, but he is so passionate. He is so enthusiastic. I buy into him. I don't buy into anybody here. You're so dull. You're so boring." She said that in front of everybody. And then from that, I made great relationships with who then became my later funder, Lottery. They first seen me as Tommy, and then I got talking to the head of communications and marketing, and she loved the pitch and she loved the way it was stopped, and everybody started talking in a positive context. And then we were able to then eventually get lottery funds because we had those allies who had met us in other events and got to know us and got to know what we are about. And then when you go in front of an interviewing panel or the pitch a project, someone's aware of your services, someone's aware of your program, someone's aware of your impact, and you've got a friendly ally. And I'm not saying they're going to be
Mm.
biased, but when you're talking, they sort of know and connect with what you're talking about. And that made a huge difference. Tell us too. It's about building that network. And as you say, an interview is beyond so much more than sitting down in front of three people to determine your job.
Yeah.
You're always interviewing, you're always presenting yourself, you're always trying to sell yourself and sell your organization about the impact that you have and what you want to achieve and if they want to come on your journey.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. That is really beautiful. And I love how that German woman stopped everything and said, I don't know what he's saying, which I thought was brilliant. It's not because you're from Belfast, it's just I don't know what he's saying, but she could potentially feel what you were saying. And that's a really hard thing to teach. It's almost impossible. You either have that passion for what you're talking about, and it can be felt as it comes across, or you don't. You can
Exactly.
fake it, but people can feel that you're not being authentic and genuine with it.
I'm too trusting. But you can see people that basically put it on. We don't.
Mm.
We're honest. Like I says, we say it how it is. We don't sugarcoat things, and people can physically see how we go above and beyond. And that's,
Mhm.
I think, every time we meet people, and they always ask, like, oh, so how many people do you work with? How many of us are there? There's three of us in the office. They're
Mhm.
like, what? Do you know what I mean? It is just you have to not come across. You have to be genuinely go above and beyond, but it comes across very like clear as day that we go above and beyond.
Yeah. And it sounds like it. It sounds like what you're saying and how you're even putting it across in this interview. And I keep referring back to this because I mean I can feel your passion for what you're talking about. Would I want someone who can spin me a nice story, or do I want someone who's passionate about what they do? Well, I know who I want. I want someone who's passionate about what they do, because whenever they come up against an obstacle, it's the passion that will push them through. It's not that
Yeah,
they will bury their head in the sand and go, I can't do this. And a lot of times, whenever I have clients who come to me for one-to-one coaching with regards to the interviews, I try to find that out pretty much immediately. Do they actually care enough about this job to go for it, or is this just one of those other steps that they feel they have to take because they don't want somebody else to get the job? And I have had clients like that before, and I can't work with people like that. I have actually had said to them, listen, I don't think you're ready for this position, and I don't think we can work together because I can't give you that passion. You either really want this job or you don't. It's not that you 50% want it, 37.5% want it. No, you either want it or you don't. And that has to come through in who you are authentically. And that's why a lot of people become nervous, is because they're trying to be somebody else instead of just being their open, honest self. Some people don't believe that they're good enough to be their open and honest self in an interview, and that's why they put on a performance. But that's why the nerves get the best of people when they put that performance on. And doing my research on you, I noticed that you'd written down that you don't get nervous at interviews, and I can understand why, because you're being yourself and you're talking about something you're passionate about. So why would you be nervous about that?
yeah. I don't get nervous at all. It's just that, like, I go back to my grounding in interviews. Like I says, when I left university, I went to jobs in Tesco's and stuff. And those interviews were relatively easy. Just how you can go and be a good customer, how you can help things. And probably end up, I'll put my hands up. Probably when I was young, I had to put a bit of a sort of a spiel on to basically try and meet the criteria that we're looking for. But then as I started to progress within sort of the civil service framework, basically AA, I was able to say, look, well, I've got these skills, and really, I'm really going to be good at these things that they want me to be good at. And then when the next AO came up, I can do all those really well because I do them all really well. I'm able to say what I do, how I do it, because people always fall in the trap of we,
Yep.
how I make an impact on that very specific thing, which is just one was keying timetables, one was doing housing benefit payments, but you made it like conform to what they were looking for. And then when I went to, and obviously I'm not name employers, I worked in the training development team, and I was in an AO, and they made me the guinea pig for all interviews for the EO2s. And this is basically where, and the very first interview I ever did unprompted, right? The panel gave me the job. Right
Okay.
now, now it was a fake job, but they gave me the job, and that was unprompted. But then what they started to do was they brought me in the room and started like giving me stuff about say this, say this, say this, but they were giving me stuff to pretend to be a negative interviewer. So things to say to put people off to pick up, and
Okay.
they give me things to say positive, like what interviewers are looking. So from going from being just my genuine self, where I genuinely the first time I did it, I scored highly on all the assessors, mock assessors interviews. Then whenever it came to the real job, right, when I actually applied for the tranche, I didn't get it. And
You were the guinea pig.
I was the guinea pig, I didn't get
You
it. But
knew
I
the
think
questions.
what happened was whenever they contaminate with what not to say and what to say, you're almost like I don't know, trained too much. The trained the
Yeah.
passion and enthusiasm out of me. So I'm overthinking.
Correct.
I'm I'm trying to like make the best answer in the entire world. And what I actually did lose when I went for the official interview was my authentic self,
Mm.
the realism. I've been trained to roll over, say this, and do that. Whenever I actually came to basically present myself. Now, what I did do was after, again, a good person, whenever you get sort of knocked back, and it was a low point. To be fair, it was. I asked for feedback,
Mm.
and I made a decision there and then that I'm worth more than this. I don't want to be an AO. The job that I was doing was basically above and beyond what would be expected of an administrative officer, and a job that came up for an AO to in another organisation. And I got the feedback, and the feedback was that your answers were too wordy, and we couldn't make out what you were saying, and you were trying to like hit buzzwords, but you weren't making basically sense. So I just went back to my authentic self, and when I went for that interview, the one for the O2 post, I came top. I had the job before I left the room. Um, Now obviously they couldn't tell me, but
Yeah.
the score I was told when I went back in, because I started the same day as my manager, um, that the minute you left the room, you had the job. It says you had them laughing, you had them like at one stage. No, I hadn't lost anybody at this stage, but you had them laughing. You came across really well. You're able to say what you've done from an administrative perspective, which would complement the job.
Mhm.
And one of the things was they ask you how will you add value to the position. You came across like a real character that will come to the team, to support the team, and everybody sort of liked you as a person. So,
Yeah.
and then I did that job for a number of years, and the opportunity, like I said, when I had the interview for the organisation from England, the funder, the charitable trust, I made the decision to go on a career break, and then I got redundancy. So I was leaving anyway, but like, they gave me 10 grand to go, so I wasn't saying no, but a caravan. So it all worked out really well. I was at the time the civil service was really struggling, and we're putting people out in redundancy. But I had like
Mm.
5 years and a bit service, and there was like I phoned up one day and goes, look, I'm going to hand them a notice. And the receptionist says they're giving out redundancies. Do you want me to stick your name down? I mean, I stick me down. Like saying 9996. Do you want to go here? Me happy days. Um, See you later. I love that. But no, that was sort of when you get rejection, and the hurt was that I'd passed it before, and
Yeah.
then I think the key difference was they trained the authentic self out of me. They made me
Mhm.
overthink things, complicate things, and I ended up learned from it. And like I says, I moved myself up the ladder.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's not a wasted experience if you're learning something from it. And I'm glad that you touched on, those sort of values that you have and what's obviously shined through when you're being your authentic self. T- Let's talk about the values a little bit, if you don't mind. So if you were an interviewer and you've got candidates coming in, what sort of values would you be looking for in a potential candidate?
Well, as an organisation and a charity who work in mental health and emotional well-being, we're looking people with empathy, understanding, and compassion. We want people who want to help because that's the fundamental function of what we exist for and what we do. We're here to help. We're there and we care. These are two things we've put out in campaigns previously, and we want to put ourselves in a position where completely selfless people will go above and beyond to help others without no expectation of reward, no expectation of recognition, just to genuinely make a difference. The vast majority of the work that we're extremely proud of, people don't know about. People don't know about
Mm.
the messages and like they come into the WhatsApp group about young people are struggling with their mental health and emotional well-being, and a phone call goes in to get that person support and connect at the services because confidentiality we don't disclose it. People don't know about things that we do where there was an incident years ago where a young mum sadly passed. We get Spider-Man, they're going to give Christmas toys and stuff. But don't we're empathetic and we're understanding and we're supportive, but we don't need to shout up from the rooftop and be
Yeah.
fake. Go, "Well, look at us, we're helping all these families and we're doing all this." We do it around there. We do our character dress up and go and stick our characters out in the public, but the wee
Mhm.
private things, and we want everybody that comes to Tommy to be empathetic, understanding, and willing to help. And if you demonstrate those three qualities, there are three qualities which will not only set you right from a volunteer perspective, but when you go and present yourself in the workforce, if you're someone that sits in your arse all day playing the PlayStation and doesn't work or doesn't want to do nothing, and doesn't want to basically apply themselves, doesn't want to do anything,
Hmm.
that's going to come across. But if you're someone that says, you know what, I'm struggling at the moment, they find employment, but I'm out volunteering, I'm out helping, I'm out contributing to society, I'm out contributing to my community, I'm out being useful, I've got a good purpose. When you articulate that, that comes across, and that's the type of values we basically want to instill in people.
That's wonderful. And I mean, who wouldn't want employees that had those type of values? I know I would definitely want those type of employees, people that thought about everybody else around them and had that caring nature. And there's always that moment of ego taking over, but those people who are really empathic, they see that coming. They're very reflective. They understand that, and they're quite emotionally intelligent enough to see that and do something about it. And what I loved what you said there about those sort of values and getting people out into the community, maybe volunteering, that always looks good on a CV as well. That always looks good. Not only are you helping someone, you're helping yourself.
Well, on our schools program, for example, so we work with about 200 young leaders a year, and like we always have excessive demand, and part of the filtering is are you involved in like volunteering outside within the community, involved in sport clubs, you involved in something positive? Do you genuinely want to make a commitment and sort of a difference within your community? And we sort of filter sometimes to basically find the stars. There was it the diamonds in the rough as such,
Mm,
and we found some absolutely amazing kids, and we don't just basically take the sort of the greatest showman, the star of the show. We take the ones that are at the background because I always say, like at a school, the principal and the secretary are just as important. They all need each other to function.
hmm.
And when it comes to like volunteers and leaders we're working with, we need people to do the back end stuff, the fundraising stuff, the sort of organising, the planning, the creation of flyers, the creation of information. And then we need people out in the front leading on the delivery of our mental health games. And we'll always look for the qualities that pertain to it, but the fundamental thing that underpins it all are empathetic, understanding, compassionate young people who want to make a difference. They don't need to shoot it from the rooftops. They just need to show it and demonstrate it with their how they conduct themselves, how they come across, and ultimately how they want to. Our motto: shape, change, and save lives. How they want to benefit from working in collaboration with TAMHI to at least shape and change their lives. We can stand over save, but
Mm.
people who are open to change, people who are open to taking positive direction, making positive choices, all that's sort of what we look for when we're trying to pin down our young volunteers and stuff.
That's brilliant. That is really good. And it's really useful for a lot of the listeners to hear that potentially if it comes down to two people, let's say going for the same position and they have the same experience, they have the same skill set, they've been to the same schools, they're similar in every way. They've come across really well in the interview. That potentially that volunteering side of things could be the difference between somebody getting that job and somebody not getting that job. And I
Oh,
think that's a real brilliant point that you've made with regards to that.
100%. If you go above and beyond, if you're basically willing to basically sacrifice your time to basically help others, that's the type of person we want. But even in the context of businesses, we've been talking to sort of employers who have phoned us up for references and stuff, and they're impressed by the fact that young people who we've recommended for jobs are being referenced for have been applying themselves, have been helping the community, have been making a contribution, haven't been sitting on PlayStation, haven't been waiting idle, using their time, wasting time. They've been utilising their time in an effective manner. And that does come across because ultimately what an employee wants, an employer hypothetically wants, is if I employ you, you've X amount of time, will you basically be the maximize the benefit for my organisation?
Absolutely.
And if you're volunteering and you're able to show that with no pay incentive that I'm out doing X, Y, and Z, you're going to shine over someone that's basically doing nothing. Do you know what I mean? A
Yeah.
person who volunteers and shows up, but more likely when they're getting paid, show up. Um, and that's in its simplicity. If they're willing to give their time for free, what are they willing to do when they're getting basically a financial, not reward, but financial sort of benefit associated with it? So it just as we see it all the time, and we have had some amazing young people that before coming to us, they've volunteered in the sport club. They would give up their Sunday. They would even if they give up an hour. It's better
Mm,
than basically sitting idle, sadly sitting doom scrolling, wasting time, being on TikTok. Not that there's nothing wrong with being on TikTok, but if that's all you do,
mhm.
and you're not applying yourself, then that will come across. I mean, name a time you've worked as part of a team. Uh, I played in a football team. You know what I mean? Compared to a volunteer, look, I've worked as part of a team of TAMHI who've like get 1,000 slacks and boxes and give them out at Christmas to 1,000 kids in the most deprived community in Northern Ireland. It's like, hello, is this person for real? I mean, are they really? Is this? Did they really do this?
Did they do that? And
That
it's strange you say that because it's so it's so unbelievable because there's not many people that would do that.
we had someone was asked something about get the social media up, and there you go. It's all over the papers and stuff. So they're not lying. It's when you check out what we do, it's all there. We publicize every single thing, and young people can refer back that I
Mm,
did this. There's me in the picture, and I've been helping support this. And again, they're starting out from the crowd, and all they're doing is giving their time. They're being empathetic, understanding, and supportive,
mhm.
and they're selfless. And they're the type of characters that will go further in life than those are basically guarded
Closed off.
and
Yeah,
closed off.
yeah, absolutely. So all of our listeners, if you haven't been volunteering, please volunteer. There's
Volunteering, it
yeah.
does, and trust me, especially the organisations now are struggling for volunteers, and it doesn't have to be. People always assume it's like life and soul commitment. It's not. If you're involved in the football team, for example, if you're a young player in the 15, 16, 17, give an hour up on the Sunday and help the babies. You know what I mean? Be a role model, be a leader,
Mhm,
and you can make it sound like the best thing since sliced bread. You've given up your time, you're role modeling, you're being a leader, you're teaching young people new skills. Do you know what I mean? You're passing knowledge on. You stand out from the crowd.
absolutely. And you yourself personally, you would do some interviews, and I mean, in the purest thought process of an interview is you'll sit on a panel and you'll interview someone for a particular role. Has there been anybody that's really stood out for you that's asked you a question and you thought, oh, I like that. That's a good one.
Okay, because I know we had a pre-chat, and that was one of the questions that stopped me. And I actually sat on an interview panel recently, like a for an academy program, which I can mention out loud. It's a youth-led initiative where myself, the guy from Be Perfect, and a Sinn Féin MP and a university scholar sat in a four-person panel where young people had to come present ideas
It
about
sounds like
how.
the start of a bad joke.
No, no, no. It's no, it's genuinely happening. It's called the Academy. So young people are interviewed for a £2,000 prize, and it's for something that would make a positive difference to their community. And it was down in North Belfast. So they asked me to basically be a guest on the panel, and we had to interview them and they had to present their projects. They also asked them questions, and it shows that the other thing about an interview is all the ones I had top, only one of them of the three projects got. So it shows how
Okay.
different people think different. Now, one of the kids threw me for asked me a sort of not a question, but if I don't get it, can I work with you and help you after? And the ironic thing is, we're now working with that young girl now because we've looked at a different opportunity to bring it because sometimes it may not work out the first time,
Mhm,
but a new opportunity pathway presented itself that we were able to basically link her in with. So she wanted to create a comic book about living on an interface. It was my top scoring project, and I was outvoted. But and that's just people need to understand. There's like panels aren't biased. There's three people,
mhm,
and there are four people. So this is a 3-1. If three people have obviously assessment, which is greater that they get it. But she asked openly and says if this doesn't succeed, we would love to work with Tommy. And then afterwards we had a chat. And this is before the determination was announced, but we were able to like put her down a different pathway for a program. And we're now working in collaboration with her to create a small comic to be used as part of our shared education program. So other opportunities can come different ways. If you ask, I mean that girl had the courage
mhm,
to ask, and through me, because I'm sitting on the panel going, hopefully they don't know me, but they're like, look, we know about Tommy. Could we work with you, regardless of the project outcome? I think that's not the sure the way it works, but I'll have a chat with me after. And then we did the young girl. I met her 2 weeks ago. Sort of, she started this sort of project to create a small introduction comic, and we've actually got the bigger organisation, the executive office, to
mhm,
do a bit of focus work on her work around this very specific piece of work. If anything, not getting the £2,000 for the specific project she wanted, it's going to be more beneficial because she's got more traction more attention
Mm,
going to a different angle. So I think the message in that is sometimes angle one doesn't work, but don't give up and go around a different thing, and don't be afraid to ask the questions in there. And that's the
yeah.
only thing that's ever thrown me when I've interviewed people. We interview students now and again to come on board, and with the early stages, I sort of realised that we need to be more robust because we got a couple of characters, let's just say. But more recently, these students we've got to come on board, the interviews have been outstanding. They've demonstrated an understanding of TAMHI, which is great. The work that we do, they align to our values, and they've came on board each year, and we've actually shaped their lives as people. They've went on to really do well after. One of them, both of them got the top level degrees. So they came, whenever they went on to their sort of their last year after coming to Tommy for a year. And we get 3 or 4 requests a year, but we only ever take one because we're a small office. We don't have nowhere to put them.
Mm.
But these girls smashed their interviews and then went on to basically smash their education. And one of them's now basically working in one of the schools that we're linked to, which is amazing.
That is amazing, and it just shows, just picking up on something that you'd said about, she stood out. I think that's about the second or third time you've used that phrase about standing out and not sort of blending in with everybody else.
Yeah,
And I think it's a really good suggestion, that she literally just stood there. She took an opportunity, and I love that. I love when people take an opportunity and they go,
yeah.
well, listen, if I don't get this, could I work with you? Now, straight away, I'm thinking, wow, this person really wants this. Even if they didn't get their first choice, well, that's stuck in my head now. This person really wants to work with me. I want someone who really wants to work with me. So that would be a person I would go back to for a conversation and say, just as you did, let's see where you fit.
Yeah.
Instead of let's see if you fit into what we're trying to do, let's see if there's something that we have, or let's see if there's something that we can fit you around.
I think maybe sometimes you would see people would go for a certain job and the panel say, well, they think they'd be perfect for that one.
Hmm.
And then they're invited back to basically interview for a different sort of job than they originally went for because they've got in their head the type of person that they want. This young girl, I would have loved to if she was my top scoring project, but like I says, different opportunity and different pathways now been availed of. And she asked the question about if I don't. Now, the beauty of it is, as we go back about what we've been talking about all along, this was just using her time. She wanted to volunteer to help with Tommy. So she presented herself as not that girl, that young girl's going to go on and do amazing things because of her character. Do you know what I mean? She didn't take it, she got knocked back originally by that, but she's availed of a new opportunity and she's learned where she didn't actually go wrong. I think she was knocked back on a very controversial reason we'll not go into, but it was because it was an interface project and people didn't want to basically be seen to be one side of the community or the other. But I thought it was a
Ah,
silly argument. She was trying to articulate really um, her impact on living on an interface and what it was like and what her experience. This is the thing. Her experience was like living on an interface where she had this perception of a community. But then when she started to do youth work and do projects, she got a completely different perception.
yeah,
And that's what her thing was trying to basically portray. And it came across outstanding. But then, like I said, she built an opportunity. She's now benefiting from the opportunity because she asked the question above and beyond. She didn't, the vast majority of them just presented, were asked questions, and then left the room. She had a
mm-hmm.
follow up. And I would always basically follow up in an interview about, look, subject to success, always basically come from a positive angle. Where would it be based and what's the opportunity for growth? That's something I always ask in every single interview I've ever been in. And again, that hopefully makes you stand out because it shows you're interested in getting in and developing within the organization.
Yeah. And you have to do that. You have to show that you're interested. It's another one of those things that you want the panel to look at you and go, I can see that person in that post.
Yep.
I can see that person working beside me for 30, 40 hours a week. And that's what you're trying to achieve there. You're trying to achieve that with that positive sort of suggestion of where would it be? What would it be doing? Is there an opportunity for growth within that? Now, so a lot of those questions are they could potentially be looked at beforehand, and sort of in a general sense, and you could say that, you say, I know in a general sense, but specifically, where would I be doing, or what sort of role would I be playing? I know what it says in the job description around HR, but you tell me from a from your point of view what I would be doing, and see if you can do that. People will look at you very differently and go, "Oh, you've done a lot of work in this. You've prepared a lot," and they're more likely to give you a little bit of leeway if you don't say something that is exactly correct. They are more than likely to give you a little bit of leeway. But sometimes what you find is that you don't always get the right person turning up to the interview.
Yeah.
So Joe, if I was to ask you right now to give me three red flags that potentially an interviewer would do, and you would go, "Nah, not for me. Definitely not. That's it. That's a non-negotiable. Three red flags."
Non-negotiable. One, not shaking your hand at the start.
Hmm?
A warm welcome. I mean, a warm welcome says a lot. Are you basically smiling? Are you enthusiastic? Do you want, like, you're coming across before we've even started and sat down? You're coming across like you want to be here. Because you don't want to be in an interview, you want to be in the organization. Then when you get them sitting down, it's the when you ask them a question and they try to blag it. If you don't understand something, just say, "Excuse me, look, can you explain that again and break it down for me?" I'd appreciate that more than, uh, I'll do this and I'll go and do this and I'll do this and I'll do that. And then they completely went off on a tangent. Because it's wasting the very like short time that you've got with them, which is communicated clearly in advance. And then the last one, which is a red flag, is I'm trying to think. Just look at you, but look, I'm happy enough to basically sit with two.
Yeah,
The
they're
reason
two
why
real good ones.
it's just because I've never, other than enthusiasm at the start, I think that's very important because it sets the scene. It allows you to be comfortable too, because people don't
Mm,
realize when you're sitting across the table, if someone's basically nervous and anxious, you have to try and de-escalate that. But if they come across like they don't want to be here, like this is a chore, then it's like anything, energy bounces off energy. Um,
yeah.
and if it's negative and it's hard, and then like I says, when you get into this sort of interview thing, when they try to blag, I don't like blaggers. I mean, no, but it's not that. There, tell the truth and like give me a time when you've worked as part of a team. I was working down the left wing and I passed it to the forward. He scored a goal. Like, no, I mean, nonsense. Do you know what I mean? But something just constructive where what they did, how they contributed to the team, and ultimately the impact. And ours is all about sort of even something simple as like help a school project in school where my role was the marketing officer. I was responsible for the communications and publications. I prepared it. I worked with the leaders of the marketing the team, and we put it out to the public, and people joined the event, and it was a great success. Something sort of has a bit of a sort of a story that has impact beyond the realms of that person. They're the
Mm,
type of things sort of I would look for, but like I says, red flags. I'm actually trying to think back to this what I was told about things not to say. They always told you in sport, and that's sorry. Whoops, one of the employers. They always told me one of my employers, not the one before, Sport and I, which was my favorite job, by the way. Uh, the kid couldn't look at the floor. So one of the tips when I was in the interview, sort of guinea pig, I was look at the floor, don't make eye contact. They were all red flags that they were telling me not to do. Like pick your nose was one of the things they taught me to do in the middle of a thing.
wow.
Just the like um be pick and flick. Do you know what I mean? But they were telling you to basically just be like completely just disorientated and all over the
Mm,
place and be rude, which they thought picking your nose was rude. And they were red flags that they were looking for, but I've never seen them manifest other than per sort of like initial assessment of they don't want to be there because they're not enthusiastic. I don't mind people being nervous, just to be clear,
mm-hmm,
'cause that's perfectly understandable. But it's like, I hear hello, I'm such and such. I want to do this. No, yes, come on in, not today. So, I mean,
mm-hmm,
there's a massive difference between confidence and arrogance.
mm-hmm.
Um, love confidence, love people. How you doing? Love to be involved. I dead on. This is I do this and I'll do this and I'll be. That's arrogance. Arrogance isn't welcome. I mean, we have a wee thing saying don't be disrespectful, don't be ignorant, don't be cocky. If you put them three letters together at the start of it, don't be a. And that's sort of um, a wee thing that we do with some of our what we're not looking for.
Yeah.
But we're looking for people to be respectful. We're looking for people to be tolerant. We're looking for people to have like empathetic and understand. They're the qualities we're looking for, but they would be the red flags that I was taught. taught, not but
Mm.
being. So I could actually just imagine the interview. I didn't get him and picking my nose, looking at the floor, trying to say answer every question over answer, because I was trained that way.
Yeah.
Um, but no, just be yourself. Be nervous, but don't be afraid to ask for help. That's another great quality for mental health.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a real problem, isn't it? When people don't stop in the middle and say, "I'm finding this a little bit challenging. Could you just give me a moment?" And you know what? I've had people that do that in an interview, and I'm hopefully empathic enough to realize that that's not who they truly are. That's the pressure of the moment,
Yep.
and almost there's almost a feeling on me that I didn't make them feel comfortable or welcomed or feel like they didn't have to be nervous. So I almost take that as a bit of an eye opener for me to go, okay, I have done something here, or I could have done something differently, and that's the end where I would go, absolutely, let's take a moment. Take a moment. Do you need to go out, grab some water? Do you need to come back in again? Let's have a conversation, and then you sort of then change tact a little, because what I really want as an interviewer is I want to see the best person for the job. I don't I don't want to see the nerves. I know that's very challenging. I know it's very difficult, but the nerves hide who that real person is. I want to see that real
Yep.
person. And because they are slightly nervous, I almost look at that as a bit of a good thing, by the way, because it means something to them. If it meant nothing to you, you wouldn't be nervous. Now, I'm not saying like yourself, you are very slightly different because you have passion. That's completely different. You know your subject inside and out, and you were a guinea pig for goodness sake. So you've had
Uh,
plenty of practice, do you know? Right and wrong practice. So you've had plenty of practice yourself.
uh, so
But
I would ask, sorry, I just thought now that I would ask the question. Is this the type of person you want to bring on your staff Christmas do? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Are they going to basically be productive and good crack? And the other part is that's just a bit of a joke, but you
yeah.
genuinely want people that integrate within the organisation and become part of it and ingrain in the values. And those are the type of people that you inadvertently do want to bring on your staff Christmas do.
Of course you do. Of course you do. You don't want
Oh,
some lunatic that's going to go and hijack the staff Christmas dinner and absolutely wreck the place. Now,
that's it.
have you ever had within an interview scenario someone that has really went above and beyond?
Yeah, well, one of our, I know, I mean, I know one of our previous placement students, young girl, who she was an older student because she went down one subject path and she didn't like it. We'd one girl who went above and beyond in terms of demonstrating to us that she went down a career path at law, didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, and she made a change to come back in the sport. And she took a real passion when she contacted us. But look, I'm really passionate about sport. I'm really passionate about mental health because I've suffered. And when you actually met her and sat down with her story was unbelievable in terms of why she wanted to be involved with TAMHI, why she wanted to basically come here. And I mean, like we had three candidates, and when we talked to her, we're just like, look, she's in. It's one of them our
Mm,
like instant connection. It's a common one to think about the handshake.
yeah,
She she was big enough to admit that I tried something that didn't work. Tick, because that's the way life is sometimes.
yeah.
She was big enough to turn around and say that I'm really passionate about sport. Tech, that's what we're really passionate about as an organisation. And she was really big enough to basically say she was really passionate about mental health because she had family members that were adversely affected. She'd been affected because of things she was going through, and she felt she could really make a contribution. And we were like, look, come on board.
Mm,
And she was one of the best, if not the best, person we've had because she was able to demonstrate and showcase it. And then when it actually came to applying, herself, she was outstanding and she was good crack at a Christmas dinner as well. So all the boxes were ticked. We ended up that year had to have our Christmas dinner in the office. And we done karaoke, and our partner and all came, and we all had karaoke in the office. It was unbelievable crack. But that's the type of person she was. She was local too, which understood the sort of the area dynamics that we live in, and that's what I mean by above and beyond. Someone that's willing to accept that something's not going right, change, and want to apply herself in a setting and being so open and honest and transparent about
mm,
it. that you just basically had instant connection, and then she was coming on board and she made a massive difference to the organization.
Yeah. You come to that awareness, don't you? When someone is able to admit or explain that they have made a mistake and they own that mistake, then
Yep.
where my head goes to is, well, if that happens in the workplace and she makes a mistake, she'll be the first one to come to you and go, Joe, listen, I have made a mistake. How do we sort this? I'm not sure, but how do we? But and it was me. I done it. How do we sort this? And that is very rare. That is really, really rare in people in general. Never mind people that work for people. That is rare in people that they have integrity and take responsibility for their own actions or responsibility for their own inaction. It is so rare. And if you could find someone like that, which you did, wow, your company obviously and your business obviously just will grow and grow and grow because you've got people that want to be there. You've got honest people who are wanting to try something, whether that means making a mistake or not. That's wonderful. It sounds like you have a really good way with people in general, but you've also a really good method of how you look for your team.
Yeah, well, we do. And the other thing is you said something that which resonates with me. One of the things we get like repeat funding off a number of funders, and the reason why we get it is because a lot of organizations will basically just try and like put the mask on and say everything was awesome, everything was great, everything worked, nothing went wrong. We're honest and transparent to say, you know what, 90% of what we did worked, 10%
Hmm.
didn't. Here's what we did to mitigate against it. Here's what we did to put measures in place to change. That honesty and that openness is appreciated because they know everything isn't awesome. Everything doesn't go as planned. And as long as you're basically just telling them throughout the duration of the journey, they go, look, something's happened here. We need to basically fix it. Can we adjust the program based on consultation to do this? They love that. That's honesty,
Hmm.
transparency, and openness, rather than half at the end you go, oh, we changed X, Y, and Z, but we didn't approve it. We didn't green light. No,
Mm-hmm.
from the outset, just tell them how things are going, the journey that you're on, and that's just people want to be part of your journey. But everybody knows life ain't rosy. It's
Yeah.
ups and downs. It's a roller coaster, as Ronan Keating said. But
You're
we
showing
actually
your
met.
age, Joe.
We met Ronan Keating over in London. So we did, but completely random. Just put that in there.
That was a big name drop there. You're dropping
Big
names
name,
left, right, and center here. Frank
big,
Lampard, Ronan
big,
Keating.
big name drop. But no, look, it's and we're mental health. I mean, good days, bad days, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people that come to our organization have good days and bad days. But the one thing we all do is we all try and get each other through them, and that's what I mean by the values of what we're empathetic, understanding, supportive,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why we want people to come in on board. That they all know that everything isn't going to be awesome, everything isn't going to be rosy, and that they're willing to basically step up and help and support our staff team, our volunteer team, when they're going through a bit of a challenging time. And
Joe,
that's we attract that, so we do attract that.
if all organizations operated from your values and operated from potentially their own values, the workplace would be a very different place. What I'm hearing from you is that you not only speak your values, you live your values, and they come out in your behaviors. And what I mean by that is, that open and honesty. Well, you've integrity. You're going to just say 90% worked, 10% didn't. And that integrity, again, it's a word that's thrown around, in my opinion, way too easily without any backup or any demonstrable behavior. And it's just words.
It is.
People can say lots of things, but I genuinely don't listen to what lots of people say anymore. I watch their behavior and I let that tell me what they say. And that young girl who stood up in front of you and said, if I don't get this, let's work together. And that other person that was willing to just tell her side of the story and be very open and honest. That's the type of people you want. Those are the behaviors you want. I've made a mistake. It wasn't right. Oh, okay, fair enough. How can we move on from that? And it's that word mistake, and it's a very negative word. And what I have done with that word is I've made it two words. It's a mistake. So you get a second go or a third go or a fourth go. So that was the first mistake.
That's
We'll go
that's me
again.
off it. That's me off of tea bags. First, first, second, third, fourth. Um, yes, no, I agree. It's like I say, we all make mistakes. Like don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, there's nothing. We're not making anything detrimental. But the thing is, if you make a small mistake, it's a small mistake. If you sit on it and keep making mistakes, you don't put the hand up and go, look, I need a
Mm-hmm.
bit of guidance and a bit of support, then it will spiral out of control. But we create a culture where, look, it didn't work out. Look, let's do it a bit different. And the other thing is
Mm-hmm.
perspective. I mean, well, we all want to do things a certain way. We need to realize that society changes, people change, skill set changes. The evolution of skill sets is actually quite scary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm trying to stay up with the new technology developments and stuff like that. But if we just have an organization where, look, where mental health, come in, have a bit of fun, do something meaningful and engaging and contribute, but we don't want to create, how bad would it be for an organization like us to create a stress, high pressure job?
Mm.
You know what I mean? When we're trying to make a difference, that the
Yeah.
person who is trying to make a difference is stressed to the max. The wrong is days where like reporting is never nice.
Yeah.
No matter what job you're in, needs done. So I mean, but time management, set time for it, work with your team, get it done, communicate with your fund. If we're going to be a bit of a delay, by the way, we're never delayed, always on time. Um, Part of the reason why we're so respected. Um, but being willing to turn around and say if something's not working, uh, we'll get it sorted later. But the other one is respect. So respect the people that employ you, or the people that fund you, and the people that back you, because they've believed in you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the big thing, belief. One of the big encouragement things that's always got me through is every job you've got, someone's believed in you, the employee. Every grant you've got, someone's believed in you, the buy into what you're um what you're
We're
doing.
selling.
So
Mm-hmm.
what you're selling, like mental health, emotional well-being, making a difference in people's lives. People are buying into that. People are buying into you, believing in what you've offered them, and what you presented to them. And as you says, it's how you act. So we act positive, we get it done, we deliver, we set out. But here's what we said we're going to do in the 10. Here's what we're doing. If anything, most like I says 90% smooth sailing. But give you an example, COVID,
Mm-hmm.
all our projects during COVID all needed to be basically amended. But the one thing when someone a funder said to me, he says, unlike a lot of organisations that just stopped, you stayed within the ethos of what you applied for. You just had to deliver by a different means because of COVID. So basically, we had to do a mental health program. They can hear voices. Um, so they had to do a mental health program, and we did it online. Still principles of what we set out to do, just a different methodology of delivery.
Yeah, and that's it,
So
isn't it? It's being flexible and being adaptive to the situation. And I would assume that your organization has to do that quite often, especially when you're working with people who have mental health challenges or you're trying to prevent those mental health issues in the future. And when you know you've said risk mitigation a few times as well, and that really has rung true to me with regards to what you do and what your organization is about. It's not about talking someone off the
yeah,
metaphorical or physical ledge. It's
yeah,
about stopping them getting to the ledge.
yeah. The vast majority of our work is prevention
Yeah.
and awareness raising, and it's about empowering people. So leaders. So like I says, I work for sport clubs. I'm a stranger danger. If I go into your sport club, you don't know me.
Mm-hmm.
My fundamental thing is about the development of that relationship with a coach who
Mm.
does serve the players and getting him or her educated in mental health and emotional well-being to realise that you've got 15 players they look up to, respect, and trust you. And if you're the caveat and the vehicle for information about mental health and emotional well-being, they will listen. So
Mm.
and then that's the mindset we try and get, and then we try and pass on our passion, our enthusiasm on the coaches to realise that all your role is to talk, listen, care, and connect. And here's who to do it to. Here's the support services. Here's what to do in a crisis. That's what we do. So when we're recruiting clubs, for example, I tend to work with clubs who have at least one or two individuals who are passionate about mental health. Because if they don't have the passion about mental health, it's like, oh, mental health, it's a chore. But
Yeah.
if it's something that they're basically passionate about, then they'll drive it. and then it's up to us to basically try and get and support them to be the driver within their organisation. Something like a franchisee type thing.
Yeah.
Take our model, roll our model out, and we'll support you.
Yeah.
But we need them to be committed, and we need them to respect the fact that we're trying to deliver safe messaging, effective messaging, and they're just the vehicles.
Yeah.
But they need to basically come across as passionate, enthusiastic, and respect that we're there to support them. And that's why we have a good relationship with clubs, because they respect the fact that this organisation isn't just hi mental health, bye. Like,
Yeah.
we invest in them, we invest in the organisation, we give the toolkits, we give the games, we have open access to everything we do. We don't create stuff and sit on it and go, it's ours, you have to pay us a couple of £1,000 and we're not delivering it.
Mm-hmm.
Take it, roll it out, benefit your network.
Yeah.
It's there at your disposal. As long as you're using it to shape, change, and save lives, we're happy.
That's a beautiful message. What is that? Shape, change,
And save lives.
and save lives.
And we can
Beautiful
stand over.
message.
We can stand over it.
Yeah.
We've got evidence. Just, we're all, just to be authentic. We shaped and changed for years, and then we've got like loads of, like I says, the small work, the bit that goes unnoticed behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
We've helped people who are at the hypothetical edge, who are no longer on the hypothetical edge anymore, who are in far better places, who are getting support, who are getting professional help, whose lives have been saved. And the thing about it is sometimes you might lose. It's like every day is a game of football. You might lose some games, but if you keep applying yourself, you keep using the same principles, and you build your team, and you bring more people on board, you'll win more. And to be
Mm-hmm.
fair, we have significantly more wins than we do losses.
That's what games and business is about, isn't it? It's about increasing that win rate over your loss rate and
Yep.
just learning from those loss rates.
Yep.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Joe. Joe, we're gonna move to a little bit of a change of pace now, okay?
Yes.
So this is a quick fire round. This is just about 10 questions, and it's very simply yes or no. Okay? There's nothing else, just yes, no, yes, no. Okay? We got the premise? Okay. Let's get started then. Is it acceptable to wear pajama bottoms to a Zoom interview?
Yes.
Is it okay to bribe the interviewers?
No.
Is it wise to ask the interviewer for a selfie together at the end?
Yes.
Should a candidate smile during the interview?
Yes.
Should you answer the first question with a dramatic pause for effect?
No.
Should women wear high heels to an interview?
None of my business.
Is it acceptable to ask the interviewer how much they make?
No.
Should you high five the interviewer at the end?
Yes.
Should a candidate swear during an interview?
No.
Is it acceptable to bring your mum to the interview for moral support?
If she sits outside.
Okay. How did you find that?
Really enjoyable, but some awkward questions.
You dodged one very well, I'll be honest. You dodged one
Awkward,
really well. It was good.
some awkward questions. But no, I like the one about the high heels. Awkward. None of my business. Pajamas, you don't know. And I'm actually very much. I think maybe we had an interview, and we're a social media generation.
Yeah.
Provided that there's consent, there's no reason why you shouldn't take a wee selfie themselves and doing an interview today and like smile, because people do want to tell their story. And if
Mm-hmm.
anything, the circumstance may be that person may come across as passionate, enthusiastic, and an influencer, and it may be something that the organisation goes, "This is the type of person we want." So I
Mm-hmm.
don't see anything necessarily wrong with it. Again, I think circumstantial, but the few of them threw me. The other one's a Section 75 issue. That's none of my business.
You're good, Joe. You've done these questions before, you know. You've
That's
done
it.
these before. Okay, but now the big question of why we're really here today, and it's to ask you about your worst job interview ever. Now that doesn't matter if you happen to be the interviewer or the interviewee. Okay, so if you can state which side of the table you're coming from. This.
But I think I've already discussed it. It's the interview where I was the guinea pig for years, and whenever the troll came up, I was so convinced I was getting it. And actually, seeing now I'm sitting thinking back about it, I actually think it might have inspired a bit of arrogance that overcame confidence.
Mm.
So I knew the questions they were going to ask. I knew who was going to ask them, because the structure of the panel, I was the guinea pig. I actually sat on both sides. As part of the guinea pig, I knew the type of buzzwords that we're using. But I think like anything on that day, probably the one day where I was arrogant, thought I was going to get it. I took it for granted. Do
Mm,
you know what I mean? And I went in and if I had all the bad habits I was taught not to do, but the one thing I did, I tried to overcomplicate every single question because I'm going to try and hit every single buzzword. Um, and I think I might as well just shooting out buzzwords rather than actually having any cognitive structured question about what I did, how I did it, what my contribution was, and the impact it had. I was just trying to put out complete drivel. Like I says, it was a hard interview, but I made it hard on myself. This is the
mm,
first time I did it as a guinea pig. I got the job, and that was whenever I was just in the organization. I was identified as this is the guy who's going to be doing the interview guinea pig. So they brought me into the first panel, enthusiasm, passion, authentic, and then that was trained out of me to the point where I was arrogant. I thought I would
mm,
have got it. I knew all the answers, and I behaved like I knew all the answers. And maybe in hindsight, when you look back, the feedback was they overcomplicated the answer. That was the questions. It was just too much. They couldn't put it in the coherent structure of what I did, how I did it, what impact I had. It was like waffle. That was basically what they said. But waffle, I was trained to waffle.
yeah.
Um, and that was basically the worst interview I've ever had. But it was the interview that afterwards, whenever I took a step back and I learned, it was the interview that then prompted me to go for a job as an executive officer, which I got with flying colours. The next thing is I didn't lose my authentic self.
Mm,
I walked out the top scoring candidate. I got the job before I left the room, I was told. Um, they couldn't score me like any. It was like they all like unanimously sort of agreed that I was good, but I learned, and that's basically the application. But just don't take things for granted. Don't be a
mm,
know-it-all. And I think that's the one thing when I talk about all the things that we were looking for. It's probably the one thing I did probably come across as a bit cocky and ignorant, because I made an assumption that I knew it all, and I
yeah.
didn't. And
Yeah.
that's my worst interview, and it was probably the worst application of myself I've ever made.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that because hopefully that'll really help our listeners put themselves into the right frame of mind and the right state of mind when they go in for these type of interviews or any type of interview. Is you may know or believe that you know, but don't assume. Go in as if you're brand new. Go in as if you're wanting the post and go for it. But don't we get in with that sort of arrogance and assumptions that it's yours. Don't we get in with that arrogance that, well, I know everything. What are they going to teach me? Those are some great thought provoking ideas you've given. And I hope that that does resonate with quite a lot of the listeners because the listeners that we have are people that are going or potentially looking forward to an interview in the future. And if they can pick up any of these little tips that you're given, Joe, which you have given so many, it is fabulous. And some of those tips that really stand out for me, some of the takeaways I believe the listeners should take away from today's session is to speak with passion and be really authentic. And one little saying you said I really like. It says energy bounces off energy. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And you're right, it does. Because if you're up for it, then almost the panel's up for it. If the panel's lackluster, you almost feel like you have to meet their energy. And
Yeah,
if you move that energy up ever so slightly, you will stand out for the right reasons. You know, that firm handshake, that confident smile, that having the conversation and in chat. It's maybe even saying to you at the very beginning, I'm really nervous about this. Um, yeah, I'm really nervous. And that's enough to calm people's nerves, but it's also enough to let the interview panel know, okay, this person is nervous. We maybe have to do this ever so slightly different. And let's get the best out of this person in front of us because that's what we're ultimately trying to achieve is trying to get the best out of it. And the second thing I took away from what we've been saying here, Joe, is that volunteer because potential employers look at that and think, well, if that person can turn up and not be paid, and they can turn up on time, and they can turn up with a smile on their face, imagine what they're going to do when they have a financial gain or an opportunity for promotion to move in a direction that they want to go to for their life. That's huge. That is really, really big, and especially now for a lot of the students who are finding it really difficult coming out of university with a degree, but there's probably 30 or 40 people in that same class that has the same degree,
Yep.
and they're all going for the same jobs. But potentially what will make everybody stand out is that voluntary aspect. And it can definitely fall into a whole lot of different categories like teamwork, leadership skills, just being involved, time management. There you have an opportunity to talk about it. But if you've never had a job and you've never volunteered, how can you even answer some questions during an interview? Because they all are about experience or potentially what you would do. And if you have never done it before, you can't really tell someone what you would do if you've never really done it before. It's really difficult to know what works and what doesn't. And then the final one, the one for me that really stood out was having the courage to just be your authentic self. Like that girl who said, if I don't get this, I would like to work with you anyway. How can I do that? That takes courage, but that courage pays off more times than it doesn't. It may not pay off instantly, but it pays off. And the more you can do that, the more you give and allow yourself those 30 seconds to be courageous, the more you will achieve in a shorter period of time. And I love that, Joe. So, Joe, listen, thank you very much for today. I really enjoyed it. Did you find it very useful for yourself?
Kevin, look, thank you very much for the opportunity. It was nice to talk about it and actually reflect back on old times. I think about that traumatic event of that interview I didn't get. But actually, if anything, fate, I wasn't meant to get it. And everything worked out in the end because perseverance and learning and asking questions has always helped. And like I says, thank you very much for the opportunity.
No problem. Joe, listen, if any of our listeners want to reach out or find out more about your organization, where can they do that?
Well, you can check us out online at www.TAMHI, Tango Alpha Mother Hotel Indigo.org. Because people always spell it TAMMY. And they can contact us on at support@tamhi.org, and we'll be happy to help any organization that wants to promote mental health in schools, sport clubs, youth groups. That's sort of our forte. That's what we're good at, and we would love to basically help if we can.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you very much. This has been really enlightening. I have been filled with a different type of energy since our conversation began. And I genuinely believe it's because that energy bounces off the energy. And I think we've created that lovely, lovely space that we're in right now. So thank you very much, Joe. It's really, really appreciated.
Thank you, good sir.
For more details about our guest, or if you would like to be a guest, go to www.interviewskillscoach.co.uk/my-worst-interview-ever, or find us on Facebook or LinkedIn. And remember, on the other side of a successful interview is the life you deserve.